Hello everyone. You may already be aware, but today is the 20th anniversary of Touhou 8, Imperishable Night, and to celebrate, various Touhou content creators are creating Iron-related content, all under the banner of Imperishable Day. Shoutouts to Megapig9001 for the concept. So, I decided to celebrate by taking a look at some puppets from Imperishable Night. Specifically, I'll be looking at one style for each character introduced in Imperishable Night, so no Marissa, going in stage order. Initially, I meant to do this all as a single video, but, well, I ran out of time, so I had to split them up. I'll just be covering the earlier stage characters for part 1. So, let's begin. First up is Wriggle, and we'll be analysing her extra style. Extra Wriggle is fast, at a blazing 130 speed, which is the 4th fastest speed tier in the game. But that's not all. Extra Wriggle has access to the ability Instant Win, which boosts speed by 50% on the first turn the puppet is out. This means that on the first turn it's out, Extra Wriggle is effectively the fastest puppet in the game, meaning it can almost always get a move off. Her other ability, First Hit, also pairs well with her high speed, boosting the power of skills by 20% on the first turn the puppet is out, if they move first. To maximise the value of these first turn boosts, Wriggle will want to be switching in and out a lot, which she essentially is built to do, with her dark/electric type combination and mixed attacking stats, giving her stab on both changeling and lightning speed, 2 great pivoting moves, and being able to hit fairly hard with both. She's got a number of useful stab attacks for both her spread and focus attack, with Panic Call knocking off items being a notably strong option on a puppet as fast as Wriggle. She also has access to Mind Trap to set hazards, and Amnesia to disrupt the opponent so she can take on a more supportive role. However, all this speed does come at a price. Extra Wriggle is incredibly frail, with only 60 HP and 40 in both defences. She can get knocked out by a stiff breeze. This fragility also makes it incredibly weak to priority, which can bypass her speed and massively chunk Wriggle, and in some cases even one-hit KO her. With a large part of Wriggle's strategy being based around switching, she struggles to deal with hazards, especially Stealth Trap, which, as she's weak to it, means she loses 25% of her health each time she switches in. She can wear Tengu Getter to ignore hazards, that means giving up other items she may want to use. Extra Wriggle only has 105 in both offences, which is only alright, and is a fair bit weaker than much of her competition. Being a mixed attacker also means she has stat investment issues. Do you prioritise focus attack or spread attack? Extra Wriggle is a bit of a special case here. Her high base speed and ability means that on the first turn, she can outspeed most of the metagame, even without investment. However, doing this means Wriggle loses her speed advantage if she's in for more than one turn, which makes her even more vulnerable than she already is. Overall, Wriggle is certainly flawed, but her role as a fastest turn 1 puppet, as well as her proficiency in spamming pivoting moves, give her somewhat of a niche in TPDP. Next up is Mystia, where I'll be covering her power style. At first glance, Power Mystia doesn't look like anything special. A good spread attack at 110, and mediocre bulk and speed. Fairly forgettable, right? Wrong! Power Mystia has a combination of Up Tempo, which raises speed at the end of every turn, and Stab Infinite Scales, which is a 20 base power move which increases in base power by 20 for each stat boost you get. Those familiar with Scarlet and Violet are probably getting flashbacks of a Spaffra, but don't worry about that much. Power Mystia isn't as overpowered as the Ostrich. Power Mystia has 2 boosting moves, being Merry Song and Brave Song. Brave Song is the most common, as it increases spread attack by 2 stages, like Nasty Plot, which can quickly make Mystia a major threat with infinite scales. Merry Dance instead boosts both defences, same as Cosmic Power, which can work on a more defensive set. Merry Dance pairs well with P Mystia's access to recovery in Perch. Once Mystia gets enough speed and defense boosts, she's basically unkillable, and can spam a ridiculously strong infinite scales. The defensive set is more niche, as it requires more turns to set up, which can be exploited by the opponent, while Brave Song is far more immediately threatening, although it has a greater weakness to priority. Similar to many speed boost Pokemon, Power Mystia commonly runs Supernatural Border, the Tippy equivalent of Protect, to get a free turn for an up-tempo speed boost. Alternatively, she can use Magic Barrier instead, or alongside it, which is Tippy's version of Substitute. While P. Mystia is certainly able to snowball, she also has some exploitable weaknesses, namely inner typing, which is a weakness to Steel, meaning she struggles to handle Stealth Trap, and a 4 times weakness to Electric, which can delete Power Mystia before she gets a chance to snowball. Unlike Espathra, who can Terastallize out of their weaknesses, Power Mystia has no such luck. The lack of Terror also means Power Mystia's coverage is much more limited, and there can be certain puppets she'll struggle to hit. TPDP also has the move Phase Inversion, which is a priority move that inverts stat changes. This can completely ruin P. Mystia and leave her a sitting duck. Well, a sitting sparrow. Power Mystia also faces some competition from Assist Merlin, who is another sound type with both infinite scales and up-tempo. A. Merlin does have a few differences. She's Sound/Nether, which means she doesn't have a 4 times weakness to Electric, nor a Stealth Trap weakness. She's also bulkier, but weaker and slower than P. Mystia. While you'd think this would mean A. Merlin is strictly better at defensive sets, this isn't really the case, as A. Merlin lacks any recovery skills, instead having some more supportive moves, such as Drought. In terms of viability, they're both about as good as each other, with slightly different strengths and weaknesses. A. Merlin can also pass her boosts with Backup Plan, which works like Baton Pass in Pokemon, but, similar to Smoke on singles, many tournaments will ban stat passing. Overall, Power Mystia is a potentially scary puppet, but unlike Gen 9's Ostrich, has a number of weaknesses to exploit, which keep her balanced. Now it's stage 3, with Keine. I'll be looking at her defense style this time. Defense Keine is unique, as she's one of few puppets with a signature ability, that being Wear Hakutaku, but I'll cover that a bit later. Stat-wise, Defense Keine is a slow and tanky Steel type, with a great 125 focus defense and alright stats everywhere else, apart from speed and spread attack. She has Wisdom Eye, which allows her to ignore the opponent's stat boosts, except from speed, similar to Unaware from Pokemon. This lets Defense Keine act as a decent, bulky answer to setup sweepers, being able to ignore their boosts and tank their hits. She can retaliate with Impact Rebellion, a move that works like Gyro Ball, becoming stronger the greater the speed difference between your speed and your opponent's speed. With D. Kaine's low base speed of 45, Impact Rebellion will likely be able to hit very hard, especially against puppets with boosted speed. However, the Wisdom Eye set suffers from a lack of power and a lack of reliable recovery. A focus attack of 95 isn't particularly strong, so while you may be able to switch into a setup sweeper, Defense Keine is rarely threatening, especially if the opponent simply switches into a tankier puppet. Her lack of recovery also means she's liable to getting worn down over the course of the game, limiting how much she can actually switch in and stop sweeps. She also doesn't bring much utility outside of simply switching in to stop a sweep, as she lacks many good progress making moves, and her own setup skills are fairly lackluster. So, what about her signature ability, Wear Hakutaku? Well, this completely changes her playstyle, as, once Defense Keine is knocked below half HP, she transforms into Hakutaku Keine, who has different stats and an added fighting type. Hakutaku Keine, or H-Keine, gives up her defences and instead becomes a speedy focus attacker, with a great 120 base speed and a massive 140 focus attack. As mentioned before, she also becomes a Steel/Fighting type, which allows her to make use of her surplus of fighting skills. Notably, Heavenly Ascent, a 120 base power fighting skill which lowers defences on use, similar to close combat, goes from a liability on a slow defensive puppet to a scarily powerful sweeping tool on a speedy offensive puppet. Her increased speed does mean that Impact Rebellion is no longer a good option, which means she has to choose between the weak Hammer Throw or the unreliable Samurai Edge as her Steel Stab. Considering how strong her Heavenly Ascents are, this shouldn't be too much of an issue. While H-Keine is strong, activating her is a different issue, as getting a puppet below half HP safely is much easier said than done. Fortunately, base Defense Keine is bulky enough to live a number of hits with about half her health remaining, so it's far from impossible. But the added difficulty of actually using Keine may make you think twice about using her. Keine also dislikes priority a lot, as she'll always be at less than half her HP, and her low defences, which are most likely lowered even further due to Heavenly Ascent, means they can pick her off fairly easily. And that's it for this part. I'll hopefully have a part 2 out soon, so look forward to that. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.